What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so shout out to the brother Town Biz for sending this to me. So, man, this dude stays in the goddamn news, right? So, Alec Baldwin was involved in a car crash or a vehicular accident in East Hampton, New York. All right, so I think he was in his wife's car, and he claims that a truck the size of a whale cut him off, and to avoid hitting the car, or excuse me, to avoid hitting the truck, he had to veer off and swerve, and he ran into like a pole or a utility pole or a tree or something like that, and smashed the front of the car or vehicle, which is his wife's vehicle. Also, incidentally, his brother, Stephen Baldwin, who's a fellow actor, was in the vehicle, and both of them escaped injury. Okay. And he put a message out online, making himself the victim like he always does. And for all we know, that motherfucker was drunk. Okay? For all we know, that motherfucker was drunk and he swerved and hit the goddamn pole. But nobody's going to like look into the situation because he's Alec Baldwin. And that goes into my point about how he's always into something. He's always into something, but he never really gets any serious repercussions. And to me, the reason why there's almost never any serious repercussions is, aside from the obvious, which I don't have to go into too much, he's also a darling of the liberal establishment. And those two factors are why, even though this dude literally unalived somebody on the set of a movie, I'm not saying he did it intentionally, right? But this dude unalived a casting director, I think that was her, or director of photography, whatever her role was. I'm sorry, I don't quite remember what her role was, but I think her name was something like Halia Hutchins or something like that. She lost her life because of Alec Baldwin. You can put the blame on the person who didn't make sure that the guns or the weapons didn't have anything in them. Okay? But at the end of the day, he pulled that trigger twice because he also gravely injured the director. And yet somehow he wound up being the victim. She's in a morgue somewhere. The director is having emergency surgery, but then he makes sure that he has an interview where he's crying, and he is somehow the victim of this whole situation. And don't get me wrong. At one point in time, I used to be a big fan of Alec Baldwin. Going back to when he was on in Beetlejuice, but the more I observe this guy, the more I think he's a blistering a-hole. Okay? It's the same dude that was accused multiple times of domestic violence when he was married to what's her name? Kim Basinger. When he was married to her constantly, his temper is legendary. And we've seen him crash out in public. Didn't care if cameras were there. Threatened people. Threatened to unalive people. Not to mention, what was it, back in 2007, 2008? When that voicemail of his went public, when he called his own daughter a rude little pig? That's how he probably talks to her all the time. And then people wonder why a lot of these kids of celebrities wind up messed up mentally. I've heard about Alec Baldwin for years, man. I've heard about how, like I said, these things could be false, But when you look at his behavior over the years, it leads credence to these things being true. I've read that he is one of the worst peoples in Hollywood, worst persons in Hollywood. Um, he treats so-called the little people like shit on films when they're filming. He treats, the underlings like garbage, as opposed to somebody like, say, George Clooney. George Clooney is one of the nicest guys in Hollywood. Hugh Jackman is one of the nicest guys in Hollywood. Okay. Um, Denzel Washington is one of the nicest guys in Hollywood. Surprisingly, Tom Hanks is wishy-washy. Sometimes he's nice. Sometimes he's rude as hell. I need to start up my series again about celebrities. What was it? Celebrities who are jerks to their fans. Because Alec Baldwin, yeah, I just never got it. I never understood how this dude escapes serious. Honestly, I'm surprised this guy's never been locked up. At least from what I can recall, he's never been locked up. Multiple, multiple accusations of domestic violence, and I do mean putting his hands on Kim Basinger. But see, when he does it, or Sean Penn do it, or Christian Slater, or whoever, you know what I'm saying? Charlie Sheen, when they do it, it's looked at differently. It's almost like you're looking for an excuse for why they did it. Well, something must have triggered them, or they must be under the influence of something, or they're going through a lot of stress. They're normally good people, and that's what irritates me. And then people sometimes say, "Well, why is it that you defend this guy or that guy?" Because of the constant lack of, I hate to say it, equality when it comes to looking at these things similarly. One person, he does it, he's looked upon as evil incarnate. Even though you have video evidence of this guy running away from this crazed woman, you still have people calling him a monster. Yeah, over time, that does cause me to be defensive of people who look like me, who are accused of things without evidence. But anyway, getting back to Alec Baldwin, I don't like this dude. And like I said, the only reason why nothing seriously has happened to him is because the mainstream media is 90+% liberal. He's a liberal darling. We all know that he hates Trump. We all know that he hates Republicans. He played Trump on SNL. So because they like him, they don't do investigative reporting on him. They don't want to find out any details that could be incriminating on him. They protect him to a certain extent. And that has nothing to do with race. That has to do with ideological preferences and biases. And the media has long been guilty of that. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.